Hi yogis and welcome to StartYourYogaBiz.com. I'm Leah, thank you for joining me today. So, congratulations on wanting to start teaching yoga. I remember when I first started teaching and I was looking into different studios, different leisure centres I could work in, different venues that I want to hire for myself. It all becomes a bit of a jumble and you don't really know where to begin. So I decided to make this video based around the thought that you will have a venue already set up. So you've either sourced yourself a venue, or maybe we'll do a little video on that another time, or you are now working for a studio or a leisure centre or a health club. And if a studio or a health centre have already employed you or taken you onto their cover list, then I'm assuming that you have your certification and your insurance. So if you don't already have insurance, please make sure you get some, because most centres will not cover you for public liability insurance. And you can just hunt around, you can find anything from maybe £40 to £100 a year depending on the type of cover that you want. Even if you're part-time or you're just teaching 1 or 2 classes a week, please make sure that you have some public liability insurance covering you. Okay, next up, what equipment do you need to start your yoga classes? Well, it's really a personal preference, I would say, as to whether you ask your students to bring their own mats. If you're working in a club or a studio centre kind of place, they will probably have usually pretty grim yoga mats or exercise mats available, so that's one expense you don't need to worry about. If you are setting up on your own and taking your own venue, you might want to provide mats for your students, or you might prefer to ask them to bring them themselves. So personally, I carry a few extras like spares, or if someone really needs one and hasn't managed to get hold of one for themselves or can't quite afford to get one right now, then I will lend someone a mat. I only work from one small church hall. I keep all of my equipment there, so I am able to keep an extra mat or 2 stored. So for me, that's no problem. If you're freelancing, you're driving around, again, you can carry your mats with you. Just bear in mind, if you are providing a bulk amount of mats for your students, if you're investing in 10, 15, 20 mats, they don't last a particularly long time. When you're starting out, you might not have too much money to invest into it. I'd say you've either got to put a decent amount of money in and get really good quality mats, go to Yoga Matters or somewhere that is renowned for producing really good mats, or get something a little bit cheaper, like even looking in your supermarkets and picking something up for like £5 to £8, just so you've got something to offer in the beginning. But personally, I ask people to invest in their own mat and bring it with them. That way you don't need to worry about keeping them clean, asking people to clear it off, or spending your weekend rubbing down your mats and cleaning it up. Tea break. So for me, other than mats, blocks are, it's just a personal opinion, a really important teaching tool. So when I first started, I invested the money that I had, not in my mats, but in my blocks. I use blocks not only for helping to assist postures for people who might find it trickier to bring their hands to the ground or bring their head to the ground, but I also use them to assist in, for example, like a supported bridge pose, or using the block between the thighs for core or bridge work, just to help to encourage a bit more muscular strength for the body. So I invested in blocks. I've used the same company for all of the blocks that I've got. I think I've got about, 30 blocks now or something. I've got maybe 15 or 16 sets, and I picked them up pretty, I'm not going to say cheap, but they weren't the highest range, they weren't the highest price range of blocks that I found. So I will link those in the notes below here. So if you are looking for blocks, you can pick them up quite reasonably priced. Just make sure that you keep them clean. I like to give mine a scrub like every other month or so and get them to dry out in the sunshine, or on the radiator or on a heater. You will find though, I don't know if you can see here, can you see on the block? The stabby holes, yeah. So clients with long nails, especially ladies who have acrylic nails now, will stab the shit out of your blocks. So another personal preference is I like to have music playing in my classes. I've been to the odd class where there is absolutely no sound, and I just find a bit of music does set the vibe, doesn't it? Set the tone of the class, creates a little bit more atmosphere. Equally, maybe you're someone who likes to play singing bowls, so it's quite nice. But if you are looking to have music in your classes, then you will need some kind of application that you can play your music through. So I prefer to use Spotify. I find it really easy just to mix my own playlists there. I'll link my Spotify account below so you can have a look through mine. All of my playlists are open, so you can just pop in and steal those for free, go ahead. And I keep my music quite fresh, so I create maybe 2 or 3 playlists every month, and I've got like about a year's worth stored now. So even if I listen to the same playlist, you know, a couple of times through the week and I get a bit bored, I can just flick back through and find some other bits and bobs. If you are teaching in leisure centres or studios, there's a strong chance that the centre have a music system set up. I always liked to take my own. Even when I was working in bigger centres and studios when I first started out, I like to have my own backup speaker just in case, because you never know how it's going to work, especially when you go for your first class or two, figuring out the system, making sure that it's either got Bluetooth or a jack, or if you want to put a USB in, or CD if it's really old school. You've got to figure those things out. So I like to take one as backup anyway, and I've invested in my own since then that I'll always take with me to my classes, to my private classes. So one that I'm using, and I'm going to share it with you because it was really reasonably priced. It's under £20. I think it's like $16.99. It's 10 watts, so it's got 10 watts of energy, and it's a loudspeaker. So rather than investing in, you know, a really expensive one by Bose or Beats, I've got mine for under £20. It's by Tesevo. Don't know if I said that right, but it's a really cute little speaker. Ta-da! I've got one in black that I keep in the house now because I left it once in a class and I didn't have it, and I've also got a purple one that I take. There's a few different colours, but yeah, under £20. You can use, you've got a jack port in the back as well, so you can either plug your phone or your iPad in, or your laptop if you carry your laptop around for classes, or you can use the Bluetooth, and it's really powerful. Like, it's a really good size speaker. I've even used it for quite big classes, big centres, you know, like old leisure centres when the floor's a bit creaky and it's all a bit rattly, but it's still a really good amount of sound. Another tea break. So other than that, additional expenses you could think about would be things such as extra props. I always think about light props, things that you can carry with you if you're not able to leave them in a particular venue, or that you can keep in your car. I have straps or belts, whatever you want to call them. Again, I invested in some that were really reasonably priced. I think I paid under £3 per strap, and apart from the odd one that might have broken where a student's kind of put a bit too much force in it and I've managed to fix them back on, they have lasted me really well. Like, they've lasted me almost 3 years now. Again, I just keep them quite clean, make sure that they're wiped down every now and then, and if they do come, you know, the little buckle bit, if they do come a bit unattached, just use the old squeezers, plier things to squeeze them back on again. You might want to invest in incense or oils if that's part of your routine. I love to burn incense. I know some students don't like it, and always check if your students are okay with the smoke and if there's any respiratory diseases, asthma or anything before you burn, or maybe have a diffuser with your oils burning if that's kind of something that you're interested in. I have a link on my website, but I will link that below as well, for 2 companies of oils that I like to use. They're both cruelty-free and vegan oils, and I feel like they're both really decent quality, even for like lower end, sort of cheaper brands of oils. If you do use a lot of oils or incense, hunt around and see what you can find to make sure you're keeping your costs quite low. You might also think about prop-wise eye bags, like your beanbag eye bags. I know you can pick those up for maybe £5 or £6 each, so it depends really on how many students you plan to teach. I only teach my own classes, like classes that I've organised myself, so I know I'm never going to have more than 10 students, and I'm always going to have enough equipment. It is always, you know, a little bit embarrassing or a bit awkward, and it used to make me a bit stressed actually when I'd go to classes and have enough equipment for maybe 12 or 15 people, and then you have 20 or 25 people squished in the class. You're like, oh my god, who do I give the blocks and the straps to? And it's a little bit of a stress, isn't it? So make sure that you are aware of how many students you'll probably be teaching if you're going to invest in equipment. Of course, you don't have to invest in equipment if you're just turning up to studios and you're really comfortable to teach about your blocks and your straps, and the studio has mats, then lucky you. Just make sure that you're putting your time into creating interesting classes and your playlists, and just making sure that your students remember you. So aside from equipment and things that you might need to pay out for on a physical level, I would say when you're starting your classes as well, especially if you're going into centres where you're going in to teach a class for a studio or another business, make sure there's a way that students can contact you or you can take their details. Start to build your client base up if you're working in other centres. So I would, if you can, pop a little bit of money into business cards. There are plenty of sites around, companies around, that you can get them quite inexpensive. I use moo.com. They also create cards with recycled card, so that's quite a nice one to use. Or just at least have a sheet of paper that you've printed out, and you can tell people, oh, you know guys, if you want to know where I am, where I'm teaching, you can pop your email or your telephone number on there and I'll contact you. So start building up your client base through other studios that you're teaching in. This is thirsty work. So I think that's it with regards to equipment. I'm going to link everything below so you can find it if you want to. Blocks, straps, my stereo, my Spotify, and the oils that I use as well. So if you just want a little bit of help rather than having to like trawl through everything yourself, it's all linked below. Thanks again for watching, and if you want to be notified of any other videos that I upload, please subscribe, and you can also sign up to my mailing list down below as well. See you soon.